Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Emily Moss, a board member of WASPI, and I am here today with composer Aurés Moussong. And he was a recent finalist in our WASPI 4th International Composition Contest in Category 3 for emerging composers. And his piece is titled Krakatoa Paroxysm. Welcome, Aurés. So great to have you here today.
Thank you, Emily. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am ready to answer all the questions about my piece, what I'm doing, etc.
Excellent. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity for our membership to get to know you a little bit better, and also about this piece, this composition. So why don't we start with you a little bit about, you can tell us a little bit about your background and perhaps how you came to be a composer.
Perfect. Well, I was born in Mexico City, and there's where I studied my bachelor in music composition, which I finished in 2012. And after I moved to Budapest, Hungary, to study my master's, also in music composition, making 1 year exchange in Berlin. And now I came to France, to Strasbourg, to study in the Conservatory of Music for a second postdegree program called Specialization in Music Composition. And well, this is like my background, a little bit of that is my formation process. Well, the composer it came during my childhood. I always have, through my parents, the stimulation for arts, especially a little bit of painting I was doing when I was a kid, but I was really into music, thanks to my father initiative to put me recordings, to talk me about composers and take to concerts, and I felt very naturally inspired by this, and I felt the desire of making music. So I started to study piano lessons, but I was never really doing my tasks, my piano tasks. I instead was improvising, and let's say like I was composing my music. I was not really into performing others' music, but I was into trying my ideas. So suddenly we got the crazy idea, like why I was 13 years old when I said I want to be a composer. First, I wanted to be a film composer, something that I am still, it's in my plans. I work a little bit in film, not much, but I hope to get deeper in the future. But yes, the music of many movies, like composers such as Danny Elfman, Elliot Goldenthal, John Williams, Miklos Rosa, they were like some of my first approaches with the concert music I was listening to. So basically, that's how it started. I thought I want to be doing this, to write music, to make living as a composer, and because my father was a writer, he understood the spirit of being an artist, and you know, I was not discouraged from this decision.
Yes.
Actually, all the opposite. So that's how this decision came.
Great. Well, you mentioned being interested in film composition, and your work for which the composition contest you entered seems like it might be rather programmatic, particularly with the title. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this composition and maybe the inspiration behind it?
Yes, it certainly has a programmatic spirit, not a literal description of facts or events, but I found fascinating always this idea of the force of the energy that can be contained in the volcanic forces. In Mexico, I used to live in Mexico City, and there's a volcano pretty close called Popocatépetl. And it's an active volcano. I mean, not active representing a real danger, but in some periods, it's a bit more, how can I say, more smoky. You know, there's even like some alarm, and people are told to leave their homes, because you never know when it can erupt. So I don't know, maybe this constant, I mean, I was never close enough to it for being in danger, but we could see it and we could hear the news. And so maybe there was some kind of
Fascination, maybe?
sir, can you repeat?
Fascination.
Well, fascination, but it was printed maybe in my unconsciousness, like this idea of the volcanic, the forces and danger as a natural force that it represents. So when I was invited to write a piece for brass orchestra, only brass instruments, I wrote what was like the genesis of this later piece, the Krakatoa paroxysm. This piece was called just Krakatoa, and I wanted to explore with all the force, all the strength of the brass instruments, and especially the lower registers, because for this piece we have many trombones, many tubas, a lot of low register possibilities to do. So I really try to emulate something very magmatic, if this word makes sense, like a lava moving deep inside the earth. And from this piece, which was I have a limit of time. It was very I couldn't do too much. It was like 6 minutes, so I felt like I still could squeeze a bit more the idea. And when I wrote this piece for the wind orchestra, including brasses and percussion, I thought like, okay, I will continue, like I will make a development of what I did before. And the paroxysm, I thought it was necessary to, how can I say, to underline in the title of the piece the character, to be a bit suggestive of what is the connection of why is the audience listening to these multi-layer textures, all this activity that it's sometimes it's very dense and you cannot hear just separated lines, like, you know, one melody and 2 voices, 3 voices. Sometimes it's really dense, but all of this is making this huge complex texture, this panel, that somehow is these layers of the earth, this volcanic, this magmatic movement. So I thought like it will help to understand better the piece if I was explaining, letting the listener to know where it's coming from, the idea, what's the spirit of the piece. What else can I tell you about it?
Well, how about we move a little bit into the next question, excuse me, which involves ideas you would tell the conductor who was preparing this piece for how to think about the work and how you constructed it in that way.
Yes, when I was about to have the premiere of the piece here in France, I met with the conductor. We sat down and talked a lot about what were my intentions. He wanted to understand the piece, and this was really I felt thankful for that, because it's not so often that musicians sit down with you and really try to grasp what you have behind. They sometimes just try to get the job done as fast as possible, you know. And I could feel the commitment with this conductor. So, well, I was one of the things that I underlined a lot was exactly what I mentioned some minutes ago, that every line is important, even if we cannot listen to them separately, because it's like a Pollock, for example, Jackson Pollock painting.
Yes.
You are not looking just at individual lines, but it's a whole that makes the impression, that makes the complex texture and the beauty, and this almost psychedelic combination of colors and lines and textures and densities. All this is thanks to this add up of layers plus layers. So I told him like, really, don't sacrifice any line, even in the most dense moments, because they are there for a reason. I explain a lot of this. I think it's important for a conductor and for the orchestra to know this reference of the volcano, not only about the emulation I'm trying to do with the magmatic or the lava, because this idea can, I think, really help to improve the performance, like to understand, okay, these are not just low pitches, these are not just long notes moving slowly here, but this is really like we can trying to reproduce this movement of the air, of the lava.
Yeah.
And I think this can upgrade the understanding of and the quality of the performance. Also, this explosion of the Krakatoa volcano, it's said to be one of the loudest and the most how can I say, the loudest explosions ever registered. I read something like the sound of the explosion went the sonic frequencies went 3 times surrounding the Earth, more or less. We can double check the facts. But and for example, there was many kilometers away from the volcano, there were some I call them Marines, not soldiers, but sailors. And their timpani, their ears timpani, got severely injured from the sound of the explosion. So
eardrum.
The eardrum, yes. Sorry, it's their eardrums. So we can just imagine how dramatic.
Yes.
Were around died, they couldn't survive. So of course, I'm not expecting to break the eardrums of the audience or the performers.
Probably good.
Yes, I mean, you have the example of Mahler using a hammer, huge Mahler in one of his symphonies. But somehow I try to reproduce this intensity, this huge power, this containing power that suddenly it's unstoppable.
That's great.
So for the piece, it's really important to keep it say that it's very energetic. It's really about energy, about layering, about intensity.
Yeah.
And there are also some moments of humor. It's more like in the third minute, like because that's just something that characterizes my music. Like it doesn't matter how dramatic, how dramatic can be work. There's moments where I like to contrast a lot with the humor. That's maybe one of the reasons I like so much the music of Prokofiev, for example, or Stravinsky, or Corigliano. They have this strong sense of humor in their music. So
excellent.
Strictly programmatic, but just one idea from which I take also my own liberties.
Yeah.
And the beginning, for example, and just to say, the beginning it's very straightforward, like very homorhythmic, very it's almost like a very homogeneous texture, but again with very different layerings happening in each sections. But it's meant to create a very strong first impression, like to hold your seats and and bear with me for the rest of the work.
That's great. I'm sure you'll find other wind band conductors who might program this piece similarly interested in reaching out to you and discussing the piece. I like to think that we in the wind band world are particularly connected to living composers. And so if someone wanted to reach out to you and discuss the piece, what would be a good way to get in touch with you?
Of course, I would love to have the piece performed by other wind bands and conductors. And they could reach me out by any of my networks. I mean, my email, my Facebook, they can just type my name and find me. I'll be always happy to contribute and make possible new performances. It's not a traditional piece of what you expect in the wind orchestra. I think it really brings almost like a symphonic orchestral essence from the wind orchestra. So I would say it's not like a typical composition for this formation.
I think
so
many.
I think it.
Sorry to interrupt. I think many wind
No problem.
conductors are looking for pieces that are not traditional sounds. So you may find this to be very popular because conductors want to find something that sounds a little different, not a traditional wind band piece.
I'll cross my fingers for that.
Yeah. Tell us, what are you working on right now? Any interesting projects that are underway?
Yes, I'm almost, as the last 3-5 years, I know I'm always above my. Is there an expression for this in English? Like above my, to the top of taking so much invitations to
Yes,
compose.
maybe overbooked. Overbooked.
Overbooked. Yes. Okay. Overwhelmed. I could
Overwhelmed.
say it.
Overbooked. Okay.
So yes, for the moment, I am happily overwhelmed. I mean, it's better to have a lot to do. I think.
Good.
So I'm writing a piece for orchestra, an orchestral piece, which is going to be around 10 minutes. Also, I will write a piece for a Strasbourg-based ensemble called Love Music. Like love. And it's going to be a work inspired in a book from an ancient Persian poet, Ferdowsi, and it's called the Book of the Kings, the Shahnameh. So I am taking some poetry, and the language will be in Persian. And after this, I'm going to start also writing a piece for the chamber music ensemble Akhosh, which is also based here in Strasbourg. So for the next year, these are basically the three. Well, yes, and maybe it's worth to mention just that the conductor of the orchestral piece, I guess probably it's going to be Miguel Echegaray.
Wonderful. Yeah.
There was
WASPI president
because it's. Yes, because it's going to be a piece for it's part of my post-degree program. So he's managing the orchestra. He's the teacher of also the department of conducting. So probably he's going to premiere it. I hope so.
Yes, wonderful. Well, we are happy to hear you're so busy and that many compositions will be coming out from you in the near future. And Aurés, thank you very much for your time today in speaking with us. And congratulations again on your award for the 4th composition contest.
Thank you very much, Emily. I hope it was clear in my answers, and looking forward for see what's they come out.
Yes. Thank you. Take care.